Yesterday, in class, you were instructed to draw a styrofoam cup like this in contour drawing only. You were told that today you would learn how to add shading or value to that contour drawing. As you can see here, I have drawn the styrofoam cup like you were given yesterday in contour line only. Now I'm going to show you how to add value to this drawing based on the values that you see on the styrofoam cup. If you look at the cup that I have here, you can see that light is hitting this cup heavily right in this area here. Extreme highlights would be right there and right there, all the raised edges where the light is allowed to hit the cup. The shadows are on the sides, right in here, in these areas. So what I would begin to do if I was looking at the cup from this point of view is I would begin to add shadows in these areas. However, when I set the cup down like this and out away from me, out of your point of view, you will no longer be able to see the same shadows and highlights that I see now. So I'm going to move the camera so that you can see the cup from the side, like I am going to see the cup from the side. So I will begin to add value like this. Now, I'm looking at my cup, and my cup has value all the way on this side. So I'm going to begin to shade lightly, just light pencil marks on the edges where I see the shadow. And I'm doing this with just simple lines to begin with. Later, I will go back with a blending stump and I will blend these edges or these lines so that they create a smoother transition, because we don't want a choppy value unless we are hatching or cross-hatching, which is not what we are doing in this exercise. So I'm just putting in the shadows on this side here. Shadows here. And I'm looking at this edge over here, and it's slightly darker, just a little bit, not a whole lot, on this side of the cup as well. Now, in the middle, between these lines here that you saw on the cup as you were drawing it, they are darker as well. So I'm just going to go in and just gently go in and add value between each one of these line marks on the cup. Not very dark, just gentle. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at my cup, and I'm going to try to get some value in this area here. So I'm going to look at the top of it, and I notice that this area on the inside, that's kind of the wall up top, because the bottom of the cup sinks in, and there's like a little wall around the bottom of it. That bottom part sinks in, and it has a shadow around it right there. There's also a little bit of a shadow here. There's a little thing on the bottom. It kind of looks like that. And then the light source for me is really hitting the top of that cup. So I don't really have a lot of value in here. It's very, very white. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and add value to this area because it's very gray. And I'm also going to look at where my shadow on the tabletop is, where my cup is that I'm drawing. I'm going to just gently contour draw that shadow in. As I see it, it looks like this. And then I'm going to go in and I'm going to make that shadow really dark. with the edge of my pencil here. When I want something to be really heavy, I typically lay my pencil on the side and push down a little harder than I do whenever I'm gently doing like hatching marks like I did before on the actual cup. So I'm going to press down a little harder. I'm going to try to blend the marks so that they're not jagged and choppy. So I'm going to get the value in there, and then after I get it in there, I go back over it in an opposite direction to make it blended and not such a choppy mark. Just get it all in. Now I'll go over and blend. Now right up next to the bottom of the cup, I want to make that part really dark because that's where the shadow is darkest, because it's really going to make that cup pop out against the edge of the shadow here. And like right in here, this part is darker. But just like you saw on the video where the man was showing you the values on the egg, light is kind of reflecting in this area here. So it's not as dark as this upper part of the shadow. But I'm going to go in and kind of try to blend this a little more so it doesn't look so choppy. And now I'm going to put my pencil to the side. I'm going to put it out of the way so it's not next to my cup. And I'm going to get something called a blending stump. And you guys will have the opportunity to use one of these as well. And I'm going to blend the marks that I made on the cup earlier together so that they're not so choppy. We want them to be smooth. See how it smooths the value? I'm going to do it down here as well. Now, we don't want harsh edges like this in our values. So what I want to do is I want to come in with my eraser and just gently erase the edges. And I'll go back with my finger and blend those areas so that they're smoother. See how it smoothed that out a little more? I've got a little bit of a highlight popping up here, and I don't need a highlight there, so I'm going to blend that a little bit more. I'm going to go in and blend this area. I'm going to blend on this side. Again, I'm going to take my eraser and just gently erase the edges and blend with my finger more here. I'm going to go to the next area and blend it. I'm doing section by section. Seems to be the easiest way to approach it. I'm going to go in and kind of erase this just slightly. Blend with my finger to get rid of those harsh edges. I'm going to go up here to this part, and I'm going to blend the top area in. Little bit of erasing here, and then blend with the finger like so. I'm going to take the pointed end of my blender here, and I'm just going to go over those lines that we just gently shaded earlier to kind of blend them in some more so they're not so harsh. I'm going to blend this top part that we shaded earlier here. And now I want to make sure that I get the extreme highlights. So I'm going to go in with my eraser, and it might help to have a pointed cap eraser. I'm going to go in and I'm going to really erase out the highlighted areas to make sure they're really, really white. So right on this edge here, the bottom lip of the cup, I'll show you on the cup here. You can kind of see it up here in the top area of the video. It's really white. So I want to go in and I want to make sure that I strongly erase that area out. And as I do that, I'm going to get rid of the contour lines that I used to draw the original cup. Because when you shade, you really want to blend in and get rid of contour lines. That's the only way to make something look extremely realistic. Because what we do is we create an edge. One area that's darker meets an area that's lighter, and that implies a line. We talked about that last unit when we talked about the different kinds of lines. We talked about implied line being one of the 3 types of lines. So I'm just going to blend and make sure that that edge is there. Okay? I'm going to do the same thing on the top side of these lines here, because there's an extreme highlight, as you can see, on this edge too. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase that out on the top part. And I'm just going to blend up next to it so that it gets that nice crisp edge that I was needing. Okay? Now it looks like you can still see part of a contour line here on the edge, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase that out. And I'm going to go back in with my blender and make sure that I keep that nice crisp edge there. You can see a bit of a contour line right there as well. So I'm going to erase that out. And I'm going to blend again. Okay, and as you can see, there's another white line on this top part here. So I'm going to erase that out as well, right at the top here. And I'm going to blend this edge in like so. Just going to go back and try to get a sharp edge. And if you look at the very, very top of the cup here, this really thin line, it has a white reflection as well, another highlight. So I'm just going to gently release some of that as well. Just gently erase out some of that highlight as well. I'm going to go back. I kind of messed up there and didn't make that as curved as it needed to be. So I'm going back and I'm going to fix that. And you'll notice that the cup is really starting to look more three-dimensional because of the shading that we have used. I'm going to clean that up right there. Now, in this top part here, I've got a lot of contour lines that I really want to get rid of because I want this top edge, as you can see, it's really, really white on this top edge. If I kind of turn it to the side, you can see what I'm talking about there. I want to get that where there's no contour line on it as well. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to erase this harsh contour line. And I'm going to erase it here as well. And I'm going to go back in with my blender, and I'm going to blend that shadow back in there so that the shadow creates the edge and not the contour line. Just blending that through. Now, there's no longer an outer line, but we know that that outer edge is really white. It's what we call closure. Again, another implied line. Okay? Now we want to go down here and we want to clean this shadow up a little bit. It's really choppy. So I'm going to go in with my blender and I'm going to try to blend this shadow in. Notice that it gets rid of all those harsh pencil marks and makes it one nice smooth area of shadow. I saved the darkest part for last. And so I'm probably going to have to go in and add just a little bit more here because it blended out some of my darker value there. But I'll do it again and I'll just gently blend it again so that that's still dark, but it nicely flows from one area of value to another. Okay? The last thing I want to do is there's still some harsh, choppy contour lines in some of this area. So I'm going to go in with my eraser and I'm just going to gently pull up some of the darkest lines that are standing out to me the most, because they kind of stick out like a sore thumb in your drawing. And then I'm going to go back in and I'm going to go over it with my blender to put some of the shadow back in there, like so. Okay? Now, if you look over here, you can still see some harsh contour lines in here. So I'm going to go in with my blender and see if I can blend those out. And it looks like I'm able to blend most of them out. I can't get this one out, so I'm going to erase it. And just gently blend. I'm going to do the same thing here. Just gently blending that out. Over here on this contour line, I'm going to try to blend it in with a darker shadow next to it. And if I get over the edge, I'm just going to clean it up a little bit like that. I'm going to do the same thing down here to this one. Just gently cleaning that edge up. Alright, and now I have a nicely shaded 3D drawing of a styrofoam cup. Now it's your turn to try to shade your cup. So get your sketchbook out and begin to try to add value to your styrofoam cup that you drew in class yesterday.